What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. Kendrick Perkins, right? Kendrick Perkins, that former NBA player turned NBA analyst, has, for the most part, been very positive in his analysis of Steph Curry as a basketball player, right? But last night on Twitter, he had something interesting to say about Steph Curry um, following the Warriors' loss to the Philadelphia 76ers. I believe the final score was 102 to 93. I believe it was the Warriors' fifth loss of the season. Now, last night was a nationally televised game. And a lot of people thought that it was possible that Curry might go out there and put on a majestic performance and pass Ray Allen for all time in career three pointers. It did not happen, right? Steph Curry had a pretty bad shooting night, to say the least. He finished with only 18 points. He shot only 6 of 20 from the floor, only 3 of 14 from three-point range, and even missed the free throw. For a guy who shoots 91% career from the line. And Kendrick Perkins had something very interesting to say. He said he believes that Steph Curry has Game 7 syndrome. And I'm assuming he means that whenever people expect something great of him, he underperforms. And, you know, this is my take on it because I know obviously where it comes from. It comes from the fact that in the NBA Finals, he's never won a Finals MVP. Um, some people believe that he should have been more aggressive and gone for the gusto in the NBA Finals, and he should have won more awards. And I think that look, there are certain players who have reputations for stepping up their games in the playoffs and being consistent in that in their prime. As far as stars are concerned, the main guys that step up in my mind are Shaq, Michael Jordan, uh, Akeem Olajuwon, James Worthy. They step up in my mind as far as players who up their games for the most part when it mattered the most in the playoffs. Hence why James Worthy's nickname was Big Game James. Um, but there have been a lot of great players who, when you actually look at it, were not quite as great in the playoffs as people remember. Um, even Kobe, as great a player as he was, if I remember, I think he only had one. I might be wrong in this, but I think he only had one 40-point game in the finals, and I think that came in 2009, I believe it was, against Orlando. Um, Kobe only shot 41% for his career in the finals. I don't like to bring those numbers up because I don't want to seem like I'm being disrespectful of Kobe, but I think sometimes we over we sometimes are unfair to certain players, and we got to look at things in context. And with Curry, I'm not trying to like defend him and all this. Yeah, there's an argument to be made that maybe isn't as clutch in certain situations as other guys, but I think it's overstated a little bit. First of all, I want to say this. I don't think anybody's ever brought up this point. Has anybody ever thought about the fact that Curry adding, I don't know, from looking at him, maybe 10 pounds of muscle may have thrown off his shot a little bit? Because that's definitely something that can happen. Uh, I remember Michael Jordan, when he put on a lot of muscle, it threw a lot of his muscle memory and mechanics. It messed with his shot for a while until he got adjusted to his new body. Okay. Kobe Bryant, I remember one year he put on 20 pounds of muscle, almost 20 pounds of muscle. He went from 205 to 220, 15 pounds of muscle. And he had a bad season by his standards, and he slimmed back down. Reggie Miller, I think in 1999, he put on like 20 pounds of, or at least 10 pounds of muscle. He went from 185 to almost 200 pounds, and he didn't have a good year. Um, that could be part of it, just a part of why his shooting is a little off this year. Um, but for whatever reason, he's not having his best shooting season. In past years, in the paint, he shot as high as 65% from 4 feet on in. This year, he's at 57, 58%. Still good, elite, but not what he once was. This year, however, he's been very inconsistent in mid range. Very inconsistent in his mid range shooting this year. And this has been an issue with him some years. Some years he's shot at an elite level mid range, 42, 43%, which is pretty good. Very good for a mid range shooter. That's the most inefficient shot that you could take statistically when you look at advanced metrics. Now, I'm not a huge fan of advanced metrics, but it has some merit to it. This year, he's only shooting 34, 35% from mid range. So he's down. That's why I've always been a little inconsistent. That's why I've always been, excuse me, not inconsistent. I've always been hesitant to call him the greatest shooter ever. He's the greatest 3-point shooter. That's no argument. The greatest shooter, I have issues with that. Sometimes, to me, I would say that Kevin Durant is a greater all-around shooter because Kevin Durant can shoot at a high clip from all over the floor. He's not as great a 3-point shooter, doesn't have the range as Curry, but he's still a great 3-point shooter. He shoots 39% from three. You know what I'm saying? He can score at a high clip in the paint, obviously. And yes, he has physical gifts that Curry doesn't have. He's 6'10" with a wingspan of well over 7 feet, but that's not Durant's fault. You know what I'm saying? And Durant can shoot at a high clip all over the court. From 25 feet on in, there's nowhere on the court that Durant really struggles. And that's why I have an issue with calling Curry sometimes the greatest shooter of all time. He's the greatest 3-point shooter in my opinion, but I think there's other candidates. I've always said that Larry Bird has an argument because Bird can shoot the three. Bird could shoot at a high clip from mid range. Bird could shoot at a very high clip from in the paint. Bird was a great offensive rebounder. Bird could score with his back to the basket, which is something that neither Durant or Curry could do. And of course, Bird could post you up, and obviously, if I say post you up, he scored with his back to the basket, and he could score with either hand. So that's why I have a sometimes I'm people think I'm hating, but with Curry, but that's why I'm hesitant to call him the greatest shooter of all time. But it is what it is. People have their own opinions. But back to Kendrick Perkins and this thing, right? Um, I just think it's overstated to say that he has Game 7 syndrome because didn't we just see him go into Barclays and put on a show? He went to Barclays and put on a show against Kevin Durant, who I just praised, and the Brooklyn Nets, and Katie wasn't able to answer the bell in that game. Um, do people remember back in 2019, Game 6 at Houston, Western Conference Finals? KD is hurt. All right. Most people expect the Houston Rockets to take care of business at home and force a Game 7. But Steph Curry, who got off to a slow start, I believe, in that game, put on a show in the second half, scoring 20 of his 33 points. And I think he scored 13 of those 33 in the fourth quarter. While James Harden only scored 4 points in the fourth quarter and committed 4 turnovers, right? I remember Steph, you know what I'm saying, against Portland, absolutely just dominating the Portland Trailblazers in one series, multiple 40-point games, while the Warriors as a team, I'm not going to say it was Steph 1-on-1, but the Warriors shut down Dame Lillard. I remember a lot of great performances in the playoffs by Steph Curry. It's just a lot of people tend to focus on his bad or his not so great moments. But let's say this though. I know why Andre Iguodala won Finals MVP in 2015 because in the latter parts of that series, he began to guard LeBron James, and he did a better job of at least slowing down a King James in his prime. Um, he's a large reason why LeBron shot 38% from the floor in that series. Okay, and that's why he won Finals MVP. But if you look at the overall numbers, Steph Curry had a great argument to win Finals MVP. Game 7, yes, Curry faltered down the stretch. He faltered down the stretch, didn't have some good shooting games. I forget the order of those games. Game 7 was one of them. I think game 6 and 7, I think he didn't play very well. Okay, the next couple finals, he didn't press the issue. KD was going for Finals MVP. He didn't press the issue. In 2019, they played the boxing one on him. Toronto, they did a good job of slowing him down. But if I'm not mistaken, I think Curry still averaged 31 points a game in those finals. So I think it was 31 points a game, 30 something. I know one of those games he dropped 47, but I think they lost that game. So Curry's had a lot of good performances, man. I don't know. I just think the game 7 shit is a little bit overblown, man. For a guy that's a two-time finals, two-time uh, finals winner, two-time MVP, and three-time NBA champion. This thing about him not being a clutch performer. I think people are the prisoners of the moment, man. And you know, and let's not forget, man, he's playing against Philly. It ain't like he was going up against one of the absolute weakest teams in the league. So I mean, it is what it is, man. Yeah, he's not having the season that he was having, and he has had some bad shooting nights. And I think personally in the MVP race, I think Giannis is starting to come on a little bit. I think Curry was ahead by a margin, but I think Giannis is starting to pull up a little bit in that MVP conversation. Um, you would have Jokic there, but no, I can't have an MVP, what I'm saying, with a poor record. You know, not a record like that. So anyway, that's my take on this whole situation. Tell me what you guys think.